started now. Welcome to another League of Women Voters Candidates Forum. I am Robin Wisdom, the president of the League of Umpqua Valley, and this evening we are pleased to conduct a Douglas County Commissioners Public Forum. And thank you for being here. The League has been active in Douglas County for 61 years. We started in 1961 thanks to community conscious women, and in 1972 we opened membership to men as well, and students can join the League for free. Our forums are always nonpartisan, meaning we do not support or oppose any candidates or political parties. We believe each citizen has the right to vote. It is our mission to help voters make informed choices. The League focuses on issues decided upon by members, and then we express our views on our website, which is lwvuv.org. Thank you to all candidates who are present today, and thank you to those who have contributed your information to our voter resource that is online. It's vote411.org. And this is another way to get your information out to the public and to help voters find that information. A couple of housekeeping points. You know where the restrooms are, outside in the lobby on the right. We have a table for information about the League. The water fountains out there. Masks are available. And also COVID tests, I understand, are here, free for you to take, one or two, depending upon how many you need. And now I have the honor of introducing Jenny Carloni, League Voter Service Chair, and she is going to be our moderator this evening. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Just to make sure everyone is aware, this event is being recorded and it will be available on our website for viewing in a couple of days. Douglas County has 3 county commissioners serving in 3 distinctly numbered positions, although all positions represent the entire county at large. We seated the candidates seeking the same position near each other to help you better understand your choices. So for position 1, you see Marcus Black and Tom Kress. For position 2, Brandy Stone, Tim Freeman, and William Curry. For position 3, Bev Ashton, Mike Ruley, Chris Boyce, and we're missing Ashley Hicks, and 2 other candidates, Deuce Bond and Diana Fletcher, were unable to join in with us this evening. Each candidate will make a 1-minute opening statement, and then we'll ask a series of questions with a 1-minute response limit from each person. Candidates will also have a chance at the end to make a 1-minute closing statement. League members are available to carry your written questions up to the front. Just hold them in the air, and please keep them pertinent and courteous. We're going to begin with the person who drew the star, and that is Mike Ruley. So Mike, go ahead and take a minute to tell us about why you are running. Tell us your opening statement. A 1 minute for an opening statement, please. And please all watch Julie in the front. She'll be our timer.
Okay, it's working. Hi, my name is Mike Ruley. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight and thank the League of Women Voters for having this, for hosting this. And I especially want to thank him for hosting it during the time which everybody can attend, which is not like the Board of Commissioner meetings, which are 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays. I also thank them for allowing people to participate, which is something that the Board of Commissioner meetings don't allow either, unless it's something that's on the agenda. They don't let you talk at their meetings unless it's on the agenda. Anyways, my background is I grew up in Minnesota, son of a mailman, went to school there, put myself through school, got a chemical engineering degree, got my MBA, went to law school. So I think I'm probably the most qualified person here at this table, even though the signs outside may say it's different. I've worked 35 years in the oil industry. I'm not affiliated with any political party. I vote for the candidate who's the best candidate. If you go to my website,
Time's up.
my time's up.
Well, all right. And we're passing this way, Chris, so you'll be next, and then we'll jump down to Marcus.
Good evening, everyone. Chris Boyce. It's been my absolute pleasure to serve as your county commissioner for the last 7 years. I'm a small business owner times 2 in Douglas County. I currently employ about 25 people. I spend the majority of my time in the commissioner's office or out on the field, though, and have managers running those businesses. I'm a husband and father of 4. I still have 3 school-aged children at home, and expecting my first grandbaby in August, which I can't wait for. So thank you again for being here.
Okay, Marcus. And if that's not on yet, please push the little red button at the bottom, and Belinda, that middle one, you push the very bottom. Yes.
Check 1.
Thank you to Ron, he's been so helpful. Check 2.
Hi, my name is Marcus Black. My name's not in the book, and that's my fault. Life gets busy, and that's just something I miss. Grew up here in Douglas County. Family's from 3-4 generations here. Had my first daughter back, she just turned a year old back in May. But anyways, so I see Douglas County as a terrific opportunity to do something special, to actually lead the way in the state. Number one, we have the resource, the timber resource. We need to utilize it. The federal government, state, they are mismanaging it and they're getting in the way. I see the opportunity with the way politics is going in the Green New Deal. We can explore new energy opportunities to create more streams of revenue, create jobs, and start pushing new innovation. If Douglas County takes these steps, I believe other counties would get behind us. And as far as I know, and as far as I believe, we can actually change the state for the better.
Tom?
Hi there, my name's Tom Kress. I'm Douglas County Commissioner in position number 1. I was born and raised here, went to high school here. I married my wife here of 41 years. We've raised 3 children here. And along the way, we also had small businesses here for the last 38 years. You know, this is a great place to live. I want it to be a great place for my grandkids. That's why I ran for county commissioner. A few years ago, we were looking at a pretty good financial cliff at the county, and I just thought I had to do something about it. I wanted to give back to the county that had been so good to me. So I've worked the last 4 years really hard to try to turn things around, try to make sure we had sheriff patrols, try to make sure all those things that you expect as services go on. So we went from budgeting a $27 million deficit to actually returning money into the general fund. And that's why I am your county commissioner, because I want to continue that work.
Brandy?
Hi, my name is Brandy Stone. Last time I was here with the league in 2018, running for this position, I talked about my grandma. She was born on Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota. At 2 years old, she was sent to the Indian residential school. In her 70s, she told me about her teeth being pulled without any anesthesia and being separated from her mother. When she got out, she married my grandpa. He was a World War II Navy veteran. And they moved to Camas, 10 Mile, and built 3 homes. My grandpa raised my dad to be a logger. And so my 3 points that I want to work on are constitutional term limits, campaign finance reform, and voter integrity. Thank you.
And Tim?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tim Freeman. I'm your current county commissioner in seat number 2. I want to thank the league for having this event tonight. Through the years of being a legislator and now a county commissioner, I've attended and participated in several events that the league has put on. You guys always do a good job. And I want to personally thank Jenny. She stepped up after the UCC shooting and became part of our CHART, Community Healing and Response team, and did a fantastic job of that work. And I don't know if I've publicly been able to thank you for that, but we really appreciate it. I'm running, again, to be your county commissioner. I grew up here in Douglas County. My wife of 37 years is with me here tonight. Both of my children still live here in the state of Oregon, one in Douglas County. And there's still important work to be done, including all the stuff we've been working on around public safety and some of the illegal drug cartel stuff. And I want to make sure we continue to get a handle on that. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to answering some questions.
Hi, I'm Elaine Curry, and I was born in Douglas County in Drain, and I was raised in 10 Mile and Winston, went to school at Douglas, and went to UCC. I studied real estate and computers, did programming, and I am a certified state educator for the realtors for the last 15 years. I've been in real estate, like I said, for 44 years. I've been under professional standard chairman, Realtor of the Year in 1990 and 2000, president of the Multiple Listing Service, president of the Board of Realtors, Southwest District Vice President, chairman of Umpqua Valley Arts, chairman of Family Development Center, chairman of Riverside Center, chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, first citizen in 2006, on the board at Wildlife Safari. I'm a busy lady. Since 2003, chairman of DCRCC, economic development chairman currently in Winston, and Douglas County Cultural Commission Committee. I am a charter member. Thank you.
Okay, Beth.
Hi, my name is Bev Ashton. I am a resident and property owner in Camas Valley with my husband. We raise beef cattle, and I have run a small business with him for 28 years while also working outside jobs. I'm a person of strong faith in Jesus Christ. My professional career gives me good background and experience in public service. I retired from Idaho Juvenile Justice after 20 years, 15 of those as a district liaison for the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. My service area included 8 counties working with over 24 commissioners, and in Idaho's 5th Judicial District. I interface with both state and county elected officials, including other public service agencies and citizens at large. I am knowledgeable in writing, management, and scoring of grants, and in resource development. I am well versed in bringing people together. I have mediated complicated land use issues between tribes, BLM, and private landowners, and I have been involved in water use issues related to drought conditions and water conservation. I support government practices that are accountable to citizens. I have chosen to serve a partial term, this is important, in order to return the staggered schedule to the Commissioner Board. Thank you.
All right, thank you to all the candidates for their opening statements. And now we'll start with the first question from the audience, and I would remind you, if you do have questions, please write them on a card and hold them up, and they will be delivered to me up here. This question from the audience is, what are your ideas for bringing new jobs and businesses to Douglas County? And we'll start with Chris.
So thank you for, I'm not sure if this is working. There we go. So thank you for the question. I'm not sure that I want to bring new jobs and businesses to Douglas County. And let me explain. The current challenge today in economic development for Douglas County is not about job availability. It's actually about filling available jobs and a shortage in workforce. Every business in Douglas County that I'm aware of today is struggling to find the people that they need in order to fill the jobs that they have open in order to increase their sales and production. We have a workforce problem in Douglas County right now. The truth is, we've been talking to businesses who are interested in coming here, and one of their largest concerns is our lack of workforce availability. So the first thing that we need to do is work on bolstering our workforce, training people, and getting them qualified to go to work in the jobs that are currently available to help the businesses that are already here.
Thank you. And Marcus?
I think it's always important still to add jobs. I mean, we can't neglect one thing just to try to, because due to labor shortage, we always need to be looking to add. However, yes, the labor shortage is a big issue. Something we need to be doing is we need to start training the younger generation in some way to accept that a blue collar, a hands-on labor job is not the meaning. Going through high school, I mean, graduated maybe, I don't know, 7 years ago, so I'm young. I have learned that college becomes such a big push that every other trade labor skill gets pushed down and looked down upon. So why would a younger kid want to come out here and do those jobs that we need when society is being taught to look down on that? We need to encourage that type of job, and we need to find a way to get the younger generation involved in those. In our county, that's timber, road building, construction, you name it. The jobs are there. We need to teach the younger generation to embrace that.
Thank you for the question. I'd like to expand just a moment on what Commissioner Boyce said. I serve on I agree completely with what he said. I sit on a volunteer group of folks that take recruits from the hospital that come in here where they're looking to be oncologists or pulmonologists and something, and I try to encourage them to come and live in our community so we have them at the hospital. But one of the things that we fight here in Douglas County that is hurting that is not only just the labor force, it's, affordable housing. We need to work every day to make more affordable housing. We need to expand those opportunities so that people, when they come here and we start out with one of those technical jobs, they can afford to live here, and we don't export our youth to a big city where they've got, apartment buildings and jobs that, correspond to that. We have to increase our inventory of housing so that we can have the workforce here, so we can attract more industry.
Yeah, I definitely agree that housing is a problem. There is not availability for the young people that we have here. And we have a labor shortage in large part due to the drug pandemic, the opioid pandemic that is ripping through my generation. The rates actually skyrocketed through the pandemic. We saw a huge increase in overdose deaths, and Oregon was one of the worst states, trailing behind Alaska. So I think that, as Marcus stated earlier, I think that Oregon really is poised to be a leader in the nation. Right now, we are way in the past, and we need to set a good example. Thank you.
So, great question, minute to answer. So a few things we are doing. So we are, at the county level, work very closely with other organizations on this. So building collaborations and trying to make sure we're all pulling on the same end of the rope is very important. So some of those things are working very closely with the community college and finding things that they are working on, and we know there's a demand for jobs. So the truck driving program is a great example of that. Right now there's many businesses here in Douglas County that hire truck drivers right now. So we recently were part of a coalition that invested in the truck driving school. Medical professionals coming to our community. So recently the county was able to partner with Aviva, donate some land that we had for them to help build their new medical residency program. And that's up and running now, bringing doctors and medical people to our community. So finding those partnerships and those collaborations and finding ways to make sure we're all working together is an important part of what the county's role in economic development and job creation is and workforce creation.
I think we need to look to the future and look for ideas that come out and embrace them and encourage them rather than stay in the same rut that we've been in. Currently, I've got people that are building. If you go out Diamond Lake Boulevard, the Wish Camper, that is low-income housing. That'll be great for students. And there's 144 units going in there. On Pomona, they built 76 units, and those were nice units. Those are for moderate income families, and they have another 119 coming online. Another thing we need to do is work on water impoundments. Douglas County lives and dies on water, and if we don't do something about bringing more quality water and impoundment so that our creeks and our rivers don't die in the summer, we are going to have a problem. So those are things we can do, and also the encouraging of people to bring new ideas. Thank you.
Okay, a lot of the responses I thought were really great, and I would not disagree with them. I, however, have seen numerous situations where the focus is all on increasing the housing, increasing all of these things, and that's not in and of itself a bad thing, but I would recommend and want to do some strategic planning and evaluating and assessing what are the needs. The needs of Roseburg are far different than the needs of Sutherland. So each and every community, I think, needs to be a part of how that rolls out and how that is planned. And then further planning can take place to actually meet those needs, whether they're a need for housing or a need for more job opportunities, or bringing more folks in to fulfill the need that is the current gap that's there for employers.
I can understand why the commissioner says they're not really sure why they want to bring people in here, bringing business into here. That's because they want to keep it the way it is and keep giving money to the businesses here, the wealthy businesses here in Douglas County. Just in the last year and a half, they've given $400,000 of taxpayers' money grant to Douglas Farmers Co-op, gave $330,000 back to a member on the development committee. They've given $202,000 to Lauren Young, $180,000 to Umpqua Valley Transport Sector, owned by a trucking company in Glendale, $60,000 to Speedway LLC, owned by Howard Huffman. These are all wealthy people getting our tax money issued to them from our development advisory board from the commissioners overseas, the commissioner of voice overseas. So I can see why they don't want to really expand out. They want to be able to keep giving money to the wealthy people that are here in this county. I just totally disagree. I think we have to decide, do we want to develop? And then bring people in from outside. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your responses to that question. This next question is also related to money, which has come up. Since the Board of Commissioners decided to stop funding the libraries, many of the county's smaller libraries have struggled to remain open. Recently, the board promised $85,800 to be shared by 11 libraries. Would you support an ongoing, continually reliable source of funding to the libraries? Marcus?
That's a tough question. I want to say that came up, the commissioners themselves, if I recall, did not deny the money. In fact, that went to the vote, and the voters said no more. So to put the pressure on commissioners, I think they're doing what the voter asked them to do at that point. And I think if you're going to be in public office, you're going to do what the voter asked. That's your job, is to represent the people. If the people said, we do not want to fund the libraries anymore, whether I agree with it or not, then I represent you. So okay, I will do that. That is what the people of Douglas County asked. So, you know, the voters asked for it. The commissioners that gave it, yes, they did give a grant. I would say I would almost consider that going behind the public's back versus what the public had asked for. But that's up to somebody else's opinion at that point.
Okay, we can go to Mr. Crest. Tom?
So that, it's certainly a different landscape that we have now than we had, a few years ago when this happened. And one of the differences is there is some specific pots of money that libraries can account for. And when we can tap into that and help some of these at some level, I think we should. But if you're talking about, are we going to not have safe, maintained roads? Are we not going to fix bridges? Are we not going to have 24-hour sheriff patrols? I think those have the public in their vote has clearly made it clear that that is a more important issue. So when we can take advantage of some of the opportunities out there at the federal level to help supplant some of these libraries, I think we should. But on an ongoing basis, we've got to commit to the basic services that everybody comes to expect from their government, and that's first and foremost.
Okay, so I think that there would be tons of funding for all the things that we want or don't want if we would reinstate the timber severance harvest tax on Wall Street timber. We need an Oregon First Forest Management Plan. Timber investment companies were a rarity in the 1990s, and they now control a share of the forest land in Western Oregon the size of Delaware and Rhode Island combined. Weyerhaeuser, the largest company, owns more than 1.5 million acres of Oregon's 6.5 million acres of private forest land. Despite its growth, Weyerhaeuser employs only about 950 people, down from the 4,000 it employed in 2006. I am not talking about small private timber owners. I am talking about the big boys, the large Wall Street traded corporations. It was written into our state constitution because timber was always supposed to be part of our economy, but we were supposed to get that severance tax and that property tax so that we could afford things like libraries and infrastructure and repairing roads and public safety. Thank you.
So the funding stream that developed and paid for libraries, and this incredible library system we had in Douglas County, more branch libraries than any other county in the state, was the ONC timber receipt funding. That funding has dropped dramatically. So until that's replaced or there is a redo of a management plan that would allow for the harvest to bring the revenue in, the funding for libraries is not nearly what it once was. That being said, like Tom said, there was an opportunity to help the library system a little bit this year, and I first admit that's a small amount compared to what it once was. But I will tell you the operation of the libraries today within these communities oftentimes are better than when the county was running them towards the end of the county running them. And the reason I say that is there's much more community ownership in these libraries now because these volunteers, and in a couple cases, small library districts, have that personal ownership in their community library. So they use them a lot more, and I think the system's working pretty well right now.
I back the libraries 100%. I gave money to build the library over here in Roseburg. And I've gone to libraries over the years, and young kids that maybe can't afford things, the libraries are a focal point for them to come and to learn. And that's something that our communities, if you go up into the Drain area, that library is a focal point for that community. So I think that we do need to fund our libraries and support them because they are a great place for people to gather and learn. Thank you.
Sadly, I think the libraries have suffered the growth of modern technology because I think it is actually taking the place in some respects. I think libraries are a cherished tradition and resource for all of us, and I would support that, and I would want to find any kind of creative funding that we could come up with. And I would even look at modern technology grants that might be able to slide over to a library that has computers and other technology so that we're looking at every possible resource out there to sustain and maintain our libraries. Thank you.
Douglas County owes over $136 million to the Oregon Public Employees Pension Plan. That's $1,500 for every single person in Douglas County. And when Commissioner Kress says we have a pot of money, what I want to know is why we're not paying that down. It's increased $8 million a year over each of the last 4 years. We should be using that pot of money to pay down PERS rather than putting into a library system that voters voted down. Now, if the voters would have voted for it, then I would agree with that. But quite frankly, they said no. And on top of that, we're using public money for the library system, and I can't even go in and use the library because I don't live in Roseburg. I have to pay for the library card, I gotta pay to use the books that I already paid for with my tax money and that were given to them. So, I understand libraries are very important. God knows I know, because I went through college and I had to have libraries my whole life. But there was a reason why they're not in existence today, and I don't know why we keep funding it.
So thank you for the question. When I became a commissioner, the county was budgeted to spend over $20 million out of reserves, and we had about 3.5 years left before we were gonna be out of money. And we had to take a look at the things that the state said counties had to do as our first priorities, and unfortunately libraries weren't on that list. But the truth is, the people didn't vote against the libraries. People were supportive of the libraries. I'm supportive of the library. The people voted against a county-wide taxing district. But each community has been given the opportunity by the county to form a library and run it the way that it works for their community, which they've done, and I'm grateful for. I'm also grateful that the DCLA came to us with a reasonable request that we were able to fund, and we couldn't make a long-term commitment because we don't know what next year's budget or the year after that's going to look like yet. But I do think if there's money available for the library, then we should support the libraries through the DCLA and not try to pick and choose which library gets what.
Okay, thank you for your responses. There is a question from the audience that I think perhaps Tom or any of the sitting commissioners could answer. I don't know that everyone has to address this, but if others want to, they can. So the question is, and Tom, if you address this first, is why don't we have term limits?
We currently don't have term limits because under the state constitution, the qualifications for many elected officials, including county commissioners, are stated as what they are under our constitution. Term limits would provide an additional layer of qualifications, so they're deemed unconstitutional. I mean, that's the simple fact of it. That's why we don't have term limits today.
Is there anyone else who wants to address that question? Okay, can I get a brief comment from anybody who wants to do that? Okay, Brandy and then Chris, and then I'll give the next actual more complex question to Tom.
Okay, the reason that we don't have term limits is because the incumbent commissioners don't want term limits.
Can you speak slower, please?
The reason that we don't have term limits is because the incumbent commissioners do not want us to have term limits. It is true that we are currently under statutory rule. In 2017, I, with a group of other citizens, tried to pass a ballot initiative to pass a home constitution or a home rule charter so that we could have constitutional term limits in Douglas County. The commissioners, by proxy, sued the lead petitioners, infringing upon our right to petition, and did a series of things to try and not get it to the ballot. And then when it did get to the ballot, they raised over $1 million or $500,000 to fight it on the ballot. And now they're double speaking, saying that we voted down our own term limits when they are the ones who sabotaged it at every turn.
Okay, next. We'll let everyone address this.
All right, thank you. This get turned off, okay. So Tom covered the part about the constitutionality of it. So you'll hear candidates say that I support the Constitution, then you'll hear them say, I support term limits. Those things are opposed. You gotta pick one. Constitution is very clear. There's other things that happen that are unconstitutional that we all think are pretty important, like the First Amendment. People trying to say, hey, you can't use your First Amendment rights. We all stand up and say, no, that's protected. Same thing, that this is a constitutional issue. There was an opportunity to have legal term limits through a charter. The charter was on the ballot. You all got to vote on it. 76% of the people of Douglas County that voted said they did not want legal term limits. That's just how the voters voted.
When the judge said that he voted down the term limits because of the constitutional issue, he also said that elections create term limits. So this is your opportunity to have term limits, and so that you can be the ruler of your fate. Thank you.
I just have a couple of things to say about that. clearly this is an unsettled issue in Douglas County. I have been around talking to people, and this comes up routinely. I personally believe that nothing should supersede the will of the people. And so I would think that we need to do some work on that issue.
I believe Commissioner Susan Morgan was the commissioner who challenged the term limit rule and took it to court, but she was supported by Commissioners Boyce and Commissioners Freeman, who want to continue to, despite what the voters say, 70% of the voters voting for term limits, they wanted to continue to be commissioners beyond their 2-term limit, which was most of the voters voted on. So it was their support. So for them to kind of stand back and say it had nothing to do with me, they were the ones who pushed it. They were the ones to make sure, and Susan Morgan was a sacrificial commissioner, is no longer with us.
So when the term limit initiative passed on the same ballot that I was elected on the first time in November 2014, it was challenged by Susan Morgan and a group of her supporters in the community, which was not Commissioner Freeman and I. And when that issue came to court, or was headed to court, it was Commissioner Freeman and I who actually had to vote to allocate the money to the clerk's office to defend that lawsuit against Susan Morgan and company on behalf of the voters, which we did. So for him to say that we somehow supported Susan Morgan and made that whole thing go away, it's just absolutely not true.
And Marcus, would you like to address that question?
I don't have much to say on this one. I think it's a pretty interesting topic. I don't know about you. I love sitting here. I love watching everybody move when this, everyone kind of gets all twitchy, because I didn't get to vote on this one. I happened to miss that vote. But from the story that I heard was, and I'm trying to put this together, and maybe somebody could clarify it someday, but if the voters, when it was originally put on the ballot, I have heard something like 70 to 75% of the Douglas County voters wanted term limits. It got shot down, ruled unconstitutional. And then when it was brought back, 76%, I believe, was what I just heard, said no. So I just, my question would be, what changed? If 70% of the voters approved it the first time, why did all of a sudden 76 disapprove it the next time? And and like I said, I didn't get to vote on that, so I find it kind of, I'd love to know more about that. Actually, I think that is a interesting kind of situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll consider that to have been a question everyone had and Tom started with. So our next question, we'll start with Brandy. And I'm combining a couple here. One is, are environmental issues important to you? And if so, what will your first priority be to combat climate change in Douglas County if you are elected or re-elected? And a related question is, what can be done about the worsening drought in our county, or what would you do to address drought?
I definitely want to address drought and water shortages. I have a card for that. 97% of the world's water is salt water. Only 3% is fresh water. 2.5% is not accessible. It's too far underground or it's in glaciers. And that leaves only 0.5 of the world's fresh water available for immediate access. In the Middle East, they have to pay for very expensive desalination plants. So we are actually incredibly lucky in the United States to have as much fresh water as we do. It makes me think about how World War III will probably be fought over water and over water rights, and I think that we are very lucky to be situated so closely to Crater Lake, which is in Klamath County, but it is the deepest freshwater lake in the United States, and it's the deepest volcanic lake in the whole world. So I definitely think that protecting our water is super important, and I've lived in rural areas and experienced the summer low flows and when you have to truck in water. Thank you.
So great question. I serve as the president of the Association of ONC Counties, and our sole focus in that group, that's a group of county commissioners, is the 1937 ONC Act. The 1937 ONC Act was the first conservation act passed by Congress. They say that again. It was the first Conservation Act passed by Congress. It's the first time in any federal legislation that the term sustained yield is mentioned. Prior to 1937 O&C Act, entire watersheds were logged and left. The sustained yield management style says no more will be harvested in any given year than what grows. We have a model on these O&C lands of sustainability, and we can manage for drought, we can manage for species, we can manage for recreation, we can manage for any value we think is important on that land, and there is a great history on those lands of conservation along with production, and we need to get back to doing that. We recently won a federal lawsuit that will require the BLM to manage under the principles of sustained yield.
I am so much for water impoundments and getting I've looked into it. I think that the places that we could go, should revisit that Milltown Hill Dam up there in Drain. I've talked to the people up in the Drain area, and they have a lot of water problems. Back when Mike Winters was a commissioner, he was spearheading this, and I talked to him about it, and I think that it's something that needs to be revisited. And another place where we could look at water impoundment would be the headwaters of Deer Creek. Deer Creek is the first creek that will flood when flooding happens, and then it gets very low in the summertime. The South Umpqua River in the summertime, it almost gets to where you've just got algae. And by having Deer Creek with water impoundment, it would feed fresh water into the South Umpqua, which would bring it back alive and would help the fisheries. And I think that as far as climate change, there's not a whole lot we can do about climate change, but we as individuals can watch what we do.
Well, this is a really amazing country because of the amount of rainfall. And so, in my opinion, we need to look at creative ways, water catchment ideas, educate our people that are in ag to know how to do catchment systems and spread that water further. So much of it just runs off. And certainly I like the ideas that Belinda just mentioned. And I think the industrial impact is another area. I think also people need to be conscious of the illegal marijuana grows that are taking place and the exorbitant amount of water that those are actually confiscating from the overall water that we have. And education of the public. I think people really need to know what the situation is and how each person can do their part or conserve in ways that are amazing when each of us participates.
Oregon literally issued billions of dollars of infrastructure money to water conservation projects at the end of last year. Douglas County got like none because we didn't have anybody working on it, so we didn't have the projects identified. We have 10 wolves in Douglas County and we have a wolf advisory group. Surely we can have a water conservation advisory group that can collect all these great ideas we've been just hearing here and put them together into a package, make it into a project, so when the money becomes available, we can hand it to the legislators and they give us the money to do the projects. We got tons of good people that got good ideas on what we should do with it. We got nobody doing anything with it because we're supposed to be looking at the commissioners and they're not doing anything about it.
So I am concerned about the environment and global warming, and as the county and the liaison commissioner to building facilities, we're constantly looking for energy saving opportunities, including transitioning to LED lights and looking for solar panel opportunities and so on. We also did recently resubmit the Milltown Hill project to the federal agencies who are looking for what they call shovel-ready impound projects, and we believe that that one's fairly close to shovel-ready for consideration. But I think the future really is a combination between new water impoundments, solar electricity, and hydropower, because the issue is solar energy is created during the daytime when energy use is low. Energy use is high in the nighttime when solar energy doesn't produce. So the solution is to use solar energy to pump water uphill and let it run downhill in the evening times and generate power when the power is needed.
When it comes to global warming, I think everybody has their own opinion. I think we can all agree leaving our resources out there to burn up and emit all that carbon into the atmosphere is probably one of the worst things we can do. As far as when it comes to water and drought conditions, something that I, as working in the timber industry, have noticed, and something my family has noticed, talking to older generations, people that have grown up here, we have more trees today than we had, 100 years ago. How much water do trees use? Trees use a lot of water. They use a lot. They drink, as we go into the dry season, that late rainfall we get that would traditionally run into the creeks and the rivers to bring the water level up, those trees are taking it and they are holding it. They drop leaves and pine needles on the ground. In the wintertime, when they don't need as much, we get a heavy rainfall. There's a dust layer on the bottom. We get flooding because that water is now just running straight back into the creeks instead of going into the soil. This is a multi-step problem, and it's a tough one to address, but we gotta look at our environment and the way we treat our environment, and we're not taking care of it right now. Thank you.
So at Douglas County, believe it or not, we work on the environment every day. At the solid waste department, we're bringing back recycling where we can. We're using glass as recycling and instead of aggregate into the landfill for filtration systems. We're now recycling cardboard again. And to some have talked about the water. I've been working with Merkley and Wyden's office to change the rules on impoundments because we're running under a 1944 set of rules on how we impound water at like Galesville. Can't ever fill the thing up in today's world. It doesn't rain the way it used to do. So we've got to do something different there, and I'm working with that, and I'm making some headway. Also, we have carbon emission trees dead in the forest all over the place. We have to get the federal government to put more pressure, which we're doing, to try to get some of those down and replanted with green trees that are producing oxygen. And that's one of our ways of fighting the climate change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. For the next question, the question is, the Centers for Disease Control states that 390 Douglas County residents have died from COVID-19. Do you agree that this is an accurate statistic? And we'll start with Tim.
So Douglas County's goal in running the pandemic from a public health authority standpoint was to give timely, accurate, local information you could trust, local recommendations, and ask you to do the right thing. The numbers we report through the county are verified by our public health officer, who works for public health and works for the commissioners, and our medical examiner, who works for the sheriff's department, along with the state medical examiner. To the best of our knowledge, those numbers are as accurate as possible, and I do believe in the numbers.
Thank you. And that would go to Belinda next, yes.
Yeah, this is a really touchy subject for a lot of people, and when someone dies in the county, the reason for their death, sometimes maybe it was directly COVID, maybe it was comorbidities or other things involved, but COVID has been serious on our community and on our families. And a lot of us had COVID, and I'm one of them, and survived it. We are in a position now that we need to move on and get in a position where we don't create more problems for the elderly. We need to be able to protect their health and be more forward-thinking, because that is the group that passed the most, was the elderly. So they need our protection, and we need to know that each and every one of us are important, and any death is a tragedy.
COVID is a serious topic. And I believe it hit everybody pretty hard, pretty fast, and caught a lot of people off of their feet, not really knowing what to think and trusting from the very highest levels of our government that we were getting accurate and correct information. I have read a lot about it, and there are a lot of conflicting views on this, and there is conflicting data on this. But unfortunately, I don't believe that some of our mainstream news sources are allowing the full complement of data that's out there to be shared.
I am fully vaccinated. You're not gonna hear any of our incumbent county commissioners say that. As leaders, that should have been the very first thing they said, to encourage people to get vaccination. Whether or not you believe it or not, they should have been the leaders. They didn't do anything. We have 390 deaths in Douglas County for COVID. We've had 8 deaths in March, and we've had 3 deaths since April. Douglas County is the fourth highest per capita death rate in Oregon for COVID. We're the second highest since the vaccine has been available. We could have done things so much differently to not encourage businesses to ignore the mandates. We could have been the example, stood up and said, hey, I've been vaccinated. Encourage other people to get vaccinated. You can do that. You know, if you don't want to get it, that's fine, but our leaders should be telling us that. They shouldn't be out there saying, hey, ignore the governor's mandate, and if you do that and you get fined, I'll help you pay for it. They shouldn't be doing that. That's not what a leader of Douglas County does, but that's what our commissioner did.
Yes, I believe the number's accurate.
You know, if the CDC is saying that, I'm assuming they're getting the numbers, the county's reporting it to the state, which is reporting to the CDC, so the numbers are coming directly from Douglas County. We had, I believe, 390 deaths. We're kind of venturing a little bit on this, but, you know, any death is a shame. We don't want to see anybody leave their family, you know, and their friends early or in unfortunate situations. The best we can do is create the opportunity and give the public the resources to take care of yourselves, make an informed choice, and, you know, do what you believe is best for you. I don't think the county commissioners, if you don't believe in getting vaccinated, that's my belief, I shouldn't have to do it. You know, I've heard candidates say, the commissioners, they should have got vaccinated, and then turned around and said, you know, you get the choice. Well, you know, if I'm a leader and I'm gonna represent you, I'm gonna represent by doing what you know, America was founded on. I'm gonna exercise my right to choose, and I'm gonna let you do the same.
So I also believe the numbers are accurate.
A short answer. Okay, so the real question in this question to me is about the lack of trust in government. And I think that it's a pretty deserved lack of trust. Do I believe that the numbers are accurate? I'm not sure. They may be overreported, they may be underreported. I think it's a hard thing to track. I think it is hard to suss out whether something is a COVID death or it is a comorbidity death or it is a death that we would have had due to our regular flu season, because it's very hard now to tell what our regular illness is. So to me, the big part of this question is restoring people's faith in their government, in their local government, and then letting that trickle up into the state and the federal levels. I think that we need to bring integrity back to government so that we can make informed decisions. And again, the thing that I have heard from people is that they don't know why Dr. Danhofer, who is not an elected representative, was the one passing down the edicts. That's what I've heard.
Okay, thank you. The next question has to do with the use of any COVID relief funds that will come to the county. So if you are elected and part of the commission, how would you go about deciding how to spend any COVID relief funds that come to the county?
Well, there are experts on the matter, and if we get the funds in, I think that we should allow the experts to choose how that money should be spent, and not, I'm not a medical expert, so I would not be able to say you have to spend it on so many masks or you need to spend it on so many vaccinations. Our money should be chosen by the experts to go where it is needed.
Yeah, I believe we'll have federal and state money coming, and how should that money be spent?
Okay, I believe in medical freedom, and I believe that we should have freedom in public health as well. I don't appreciate some of the things that occurred, and I believe that state and federal dollars come with some pretty big strings, like ropes attached sometimes, that actually tell us what we can and cannot do. I think we need to examine these things very carefully. If money were to come down, I would want to look really, really in detail about what it is that we would be bound to do and what would be put upon our citizens to have to do.
If money is available for Douglas County for COVID relief, we should get all we can. It's taxpayers' money. We've already paid that into our system. We're just getting our own money back. For us not to take it would be crazy, because we're just giving our money to somebody else. So we should use that money, and it's gonna be outlined on whatever money we get. They're gonna have strict guidelines on what we can spend it on. Deciding what that is today is pretty hard to say. What I wanna do, what it says in the guidelines, absolutely. Whatever it took to get the money to bring in here is gonna upgrade our systems, whether it's schools, whether it's our medical facilities, it's gonna upgrade them. We need to get as much money as we can in COVID relief and all that stuff. And I suspect we've already got a whole bunch of that's already come in, and that's why that's the big pots of money that the commissioners are talking about that they're finding out.
So I agree with some of the things that have already been said. We do have experts. Your three current county commissioners are experts. We've been receiving COVID funds from the state and the federal government. The monies that come in are allocated towards specific things. So there's economic relief for businesses, and there's money for infrastructure related projects and medical supplies and all these other things. And we have received some, and we have spent it according to the rules, and we encourage anyone who's interested in audit to do so, and we'll continue to do that.
You know, I'd have to say, unless you're working with only COVID relief money or whatever, you know, this money is usually allocated, this federal government is already gonna tell you this money needs to go to, you know, business, certain amount to businesses, a certain amount here, a certain amount there. You know, me personally, I think you have to look at it and go, does Douglas County even need the money? I mean, this reckless spending is what's gotten, at the federal government, that's what's gotten our $20 trillion in debt in the first place. It's probably more than that now, because we have reckless spending. I hear the sentiment, well, if it's taxpayer money, we need to go get it anyways. That's why we are in debt, because of that mentality. You know, if Douglas County needs the money and we need the help, we can take it and put it to use. If we don't really need the money, I think, me morally, I mean, why should I take the money anyways? If we don't need it, send it back. Give it back, give it back to the federal government, give it back to the American taxpayer.
So the COVID relief money, that we've gotten and we will get in the future, clearly has sideboards, as Commissioner Boyce talked about, and there were certain categories that you can and can't spend it with, and in finding that and navigating that, there were several different categories that worked out. Some of it, it has to do with helping cities, and some of it has to do with unincorporated cities like Clyde or municipalities. The strings attached are simply accounting and making sure that it's used within the sideboards that they've presented. The money is coming, and it's either going to go to us or it's going to go to another county. How we use it though is, we have to strictly do within whatever sideboards that they give us.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't say this before, but I also believe in the right of people to direct their own health care. I definitely don't think that we should be accepting COVID money that has strings about mandates, about that it's some kind of quota, if you don't use it, you lose it. But I'm also skeptical about the use of these funds because of the current administration's tendency to misuse funds that are supposed to be like Title III for certain uses, and then using them wherever they feel, or putting them in, injecting them into the budget wherever they see fit. So again, yeah, I don't think that we need to accept money with strings attached either, especially if it infringes upon our right to choose.
So we have a tremendous finance department at the county, and our current budget proposes to spend $202 million. And that money is watched like a hawk, and each and every year we're audited, and every year the current commissioners have been in the county doing the work. We've won the highest financial achievement award from a national organization on the way we take care of the money. COVID dollars, first and foremost, are for public health and responding to the COVID pandemic. As much as we all believe the pandemic's over, there's still COVID pandemic work going on, and that's the first priority for this money. DPHN, which is normally about 6 employees, is contracted to do this program element of public health for the county. They've been as high as 40 employees doing that work. They still have more employees than they normally do, and we're still funding all that work that they're doing. And we're going to continue to fund that and make sure we don't, like other counties do, let all that staff go and then have a resurgence and not be able to deal with it. So first priority is public health with pandemic money is to take care of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Another question for all candidates is, this questioner would like to know, what is your position on the Greater Idaho measure? Start with Bev.
Well, I happen to know a lot about Idaho. I think I had a comment at one of the forums that said, this is Oregon, not Idaho. But I believe that there's a lot of Oregon that wishes it was Idaho, and for good reasons, because of the solvency of the way the government operates overall, and for instance, their PERS is amazing. But on the other hand, I also understand how people want to retain Oregon for Oregon. And so therein is my answer, whatever is the will of the people. So I would defer to the voting public.
I would echo that comment. My personal choices is I moved here with my wife 12 years ago when we bought our house. I moved to Oregon. I didn't move to Idaho. I was looking at Idaho too, but I decided I wanted to move to Oregon, and if I had to do Oregon, I'd have moved here 20 years earlier. But if it was Idaho, I doubt it. I like Oregon. I love Oregon. Oregon's where I live, and this is where I wanted to stay. So that's kind of my personal choice. It's up to the voters. If the voters choose to do that, then we go by the voters, and then I change hats again, like I have with all the oil companies I work with. Again, used to.
I'm opposed. I just as soon work on fixing Oregon and making it be what we want it to be. But again, I always frustrate when folks ask me my opinion about important ballot issues, because I'm far more interested in hearing what the electorate says and try not to influence that vote personally, but I'll be voting no.
First and foremost, we're a representative of the citizens of Douglas County. If the citizens of Douglas County, they truly want that, we'll do in our power, in my power, to make that a possibility, try to make that happen. Now, my personal opinion, I'm young, bought my first home. I've had it for about 5 years. I see the politics in the state of Oregon, and I really considered just packing up and moving to Idaho. I mean, it looks like compared to here, it looks like a dream. However, Oregon is a beautiful state. I think we can all agree on. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful states there are. And going to church and becoming a man of faith, I don't think the Lord, he would be upset at me if I just packed it up and took the easy route. He doesn't want us to do that. Our founding fathers, when they set up this country, they've been taking a constitution class. They say it is our duty to stand up and take back and just restore order, essentially, to what is ours. They didn't tell us to run away and hide. You know, They got away from the British due to the taxes, and then when the British followed them, they stood up and they fought. So, you know, stand up for Douglas County and let's take care of this.
I can certainly understand why people feel frustrated and maybe look at, the greater Idaho movement, move to Idaho to undo some of the things that they think are wrong. But I, for one, love Oregon, for all its warts, and I wanna work very, very hard to fix Oregon so that maybe someday people in Idaho wanna move to Oregon. Thank you.
So we were asked this question already over a week ago at the Real Estate Association forum. And I'll say what I said then, which is that I was born in Oregon, I'm definitely an Oregonian, and I feel the same way, that we should stay here and we should fix things. I think we've got a lot to stay and fight for. There's one thing that I really like about Idaho, and that is that they have a higher timber severance tax than we do, and that probably attributes to why they rank a lot higher than Oregon in many of their criteria. So I don't think that the incumbent commissioners support Greater Idaho, because then their corporate donors would not have the kind of power that they have in Oregon. Thank you.
So that's an interesting question that came up a couple of years ago, and the Board of Commissioners put an advisory question on your ballot. So many of you have already voted on this. That was a few years ago. Most of the voters, the majority of the voters said no to the idea then. It is back as an initiative petition, and it's a measure that you're all going to get to vote on again. And really, it's interesting that this continues to be asked of county commissioners. County commissioners have no part of the process of changing state borders. It's a legislative process. So how it works is both legislatures in both states have to pass identical bills agreeing on where the border is going to be moved to, and then Congress has to ratify it. You notice there's no part of county commissioners in that? So I don't mind people talking about it, but it's interesting, you're asking the wrong group of people. We're not the people that make that decision, and quite honestly, the voters aren't either. You can't vote yourself to another state. It takes that process I explained. It will be interesting to see what the last 2 years of pandemic and issues that have gone on, if that's going to change the voters' minds or not. But we're going to find out here in about 3 weeks.
The land is the land, and whatever we call it, it's still where we're at. Douglas County is Douglas County, and it will be Douglas County. But what the rulers of the state that are mandating some of the issues that are creating problems for us, we need to be able to stand up and say, no. What's going on up in Salem, they have this supermajority, and they'll probably have the supermajority for some time because that's where the population base is. And unless we as individuals in the county say, no, we are not going to be mandated, because we have to be able to stand, and our land is our land. It'll always be, no matter what we call it.
Thank you. The next question for everyone is, starts with a little background. It says, Douglas County is suffering from what some call a childcare drought. What can the commissioners do to support the residents who need help with childcare in order to go to work, school, etc.? We'll start with Mike Ruley.
Well, some of you are probably shaking your head like me. I'm trying to come up with an idea for that. I really don't really have an opinion on it. No, that's the first time I've been asked that question.
Okay, we can go on to Chris.
So this is something that we've been working on actually for quite some time. It goes back to the comment that I made earlier about workforce inability, and part of that problem is childcare. So there's a coalition of folks in the community called the Douglas County Childcare Coalition that have formed specifically in order to work on that one issue. We have granted them money, we have helped them in multiple different ways. One of the other things that we're currently looking at just from the county, and to help our own employees and to potentially provide some added relief to members of the community, is opening a child care facility on campus at the courthouse. So we've got a building that we're willing to renovate. We're in the beginning stages of trying to put together a request for proposals for an outside entity to come and run that facility that would give county employees the opportunity to have childcare available, but also for members of the public, as long as we can stay within capacity.
Childcare to me is kind of a tough one. In fact, that's what me and my wife are dealing with right now. I'm fortunate enough she gets to work from home. Now, if she didn't get to work from home, I don't make enough, she doesn't make enough. I couldn't afford childcare, babysitter, or any of that. My daughter's not old enough to go to school. Not that I want her to go to public school anyways. You know, so that one there, you could allocate money to try to help families afford babysitting or childcare, daycare, whatever it is that they need. But, you know, in my personal opinion, if you're an adult and you have kids, it is your responsibility to do everything in your power by yourself to make sure those kids have a chance. You know, it's not up to you to have to take care of my daughter when I chose to have her, you know. Yes, we can help, there are people that need help, and we need to help those people, but how do you go about instituting a program that's not gonna get abused by the general public? Because we see that anytime we offer a welfare program, it gets abused on a large scale.
Because we've been working on this at Douglas County currently, Commissioner Boyce nailed that, and he's got that down. I don't have much to add other than I do hope that when we get finished with what we're doing at the county and making that available to our employees, that and you know, working out some of the bugs and kinks in that becomes a model for some other employers, because it's clearly an issue. But as to most of it, Commissioner Boyce hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a curveball. I think that I was thinking a lot of the same things that Marcus vocalized, which is that I think millennials tend to take a much more responsibility approach to like having kids. Like, we do not generally believe that you should have kids if you can't take care of them yourself, because I think that that's part of the kernel of this question is, you know, are there going to be government subsidies or benefits or welfare like in some socialized countries? I don't think that that's appropriate for us here. But what I do think is a trend is younger people like myself and Marcus wanting to work from home. I do work from home as well. I sell clothes online. And I think that that's really the trend that we're going towards, is more people telecommuting and using the internet. So I think that it's important that we have Wi-Fi available everywhere, especially in rural areas where people may be living who have kids. Thank you.
This will come as no secret to any of you. Millennials are who's having kids, largely because people that have children are a little bit younger than some of us older folks. So it is in fact a need that is for younger people. However, it is a community need, and it is an employer need. We certainly have seen in the county the need to find creative ways to get workforce to provide you all services. And other businesses have adopted models of providing daycare for their employees, and we're hoping that'll work out. In my previous role as your state legislator, I happen to be the co-chair of the Ways and Means Subcommittee for Health and Human Services, and I know the programs, including employment-related daycare and other programs the state funds, really have hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the state, and at times those programs are in high demand, but it is a state function of government. The county's got to be really careful wanting to tackle things that are not county responsibility or county level of government when the state's already doing it. And I would encourage you all to work with the state for your employment-related daycare and other services.
Children, of course, are our future, and we have to take care of our future. As a community, we need to take care of our future. Grandparents may be a real asset for families. Young families can find themselves in a position where they aren't doing the job for their kids. I really support some of the different organizations like the Family Development Center and other organizations that help kids like Head Start, that sort of thing. And this is an individual decision, what a parent wants to do, because the parent is the person that's responsible for that child. And if the parent isn't able or willing to do so, we as a community must step in and make sure that that child is taken care of. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that's a fine line. And I would much more prefer that, as Marcus mentioned, that our young people who are having families really do that with the expectation that they are gonna take care of their kids and they are gonna find their childcare. On the other hand, we do know that we have a population and certain people who struggle that have legitimate needs. My concern would be, again, you know, there's a lot of grant dollars, there's a lot of money out there, there's for this type of thing, and I think we have to be very careful because I think it can cultivate a dependency on government. So yes, let's help who needs help, but then again, let's also look at the resources we have and be responsible about that.
All right, so this question is a two-part question, and we'll start with Chris. The question is, where did the majority of the $500,000 in donations come from to fight the Home Rule Charter, and who has contributed to your campaign and how much?
So I don't know exactly where the money came from to fight the Home Rule Charter because I wasn't working on that. I haven't looked, I don't have any idea. Who's supported my campaign? The list is very long. It's available on, it's all public information. You go to orstar.com. You can look at my campaign finance activity and see every single person that supported my campaign. But primarily, it's business owners from all around the county in all different industries. So we've got some of my biggest donors are like Fred Wall Marine over at the coast. I've got Lone Rock Timber, large contribution, trailer manufacturer in Sutherland, mostly business people in the community, and then some private donations as well.
Is this a question for everybody?
Oh, yes, it is for everyone, and I understand that some of you may not know the background to the Home Rule Charter funding, but if you know it, you can answer it, and the other question is who has contributed to your campaign and how much?
As far as the Home Rule Charter, that one's new. I have to read up or learn about that before I can even comment, because that'd be foolish of me to comment on something I know nothing about. Donations, it's just me. I don't believe, I understand it takes money to run a campaign, and it takes money to get somewhere. I've had family members that come along and are like, if you need some money, we can kick some money your way. And I said, I don't want that. I think as soon as you start taking money from businesses and nonprofits or any of these corporations, you start opening the door to, are you actually serving the best interest of the people, or are we serving the best interest of those corporations? I don't want my judgment of character to come into question. Therefore, I think it's better to just stay away from that. Then, as the voter, Lone Rock or whoever, they don't have any sway over me. They did not make a donation. They have no power over me as the potential commissioner.
I don't know anything about the Home Rule Charter either. I've never read up on that. As far as my campaign, I'm very humbled. 4 years ago with my campaign, I'd have people approach me as soon as I filed and say, what can we do to help? We need good leadership in there. And they were willing to invest in Douglas County. And that went on today. As soon as I refiled for re-election, I had people come to me and say, how can we help? I have people come to me and say, you haven't came to me today. Are you flush? Are you ready to go on this? And because we would like to help you make sure that you stay in there. We think you're doing a good job. And I will tell you that my level of integrity is such that I never thought that they were buying something. This is something they invest in the community. They want good leadership. They care about Douglas County. A lot of them are businesses that need to grow and prosper here. And I will absolutely tell you they're ready to invest in it. And that's where the bulk of everything that I've got. And as Commissioner Boyd says, you can look on OrStar and it'll tell you exactly where it came from.
Yeah, so you can review candidates' campaign finance activity on the Secretary of State website. Sometimes it can be hard to find the account because of the name. Sometimes it's a little difficult. In the situation with the Home Rule Charter, the opposition, it didn't have Home Rule Charter in the title. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was something like Protect Douglas County Public Safety or something like that. And it had a list of the same donors that Tim and Chris, that donate to Tim, and the major donors to Tim and Chris's campaign. I was actually out canvassing for the Home Rule Charter when I went by Gary Leaf's house and I saw a bunch of cars outside that were clearly there for a fundraising event. I don't know which all commissioners were there, but it appeared that that was the fundraising event to raise money against the Home Rule Charter. When we're talking about it, the issue gets kind of confused because the term limits were in two different initiative petition processes. Thank you.
So, I don't have it right in front of me, but if you look up the Home Rule Charter, to defeat the Home Rule Charter, spent about $160,000. So people that are standing up here saying $500,000 are just absolutely lying to you. That's all public information and you can look at it. As far as my contributions, again, you're gonna have people say that if they took contributions, they'd feel like they were somehow biased or bought off. And I wanna really applaud those people that say that for telling you all their level of integrity. What they're telling you is if somebody gives them a campaign donation, they feel bought off or they gotta pay back somebody. That's not my level of integrity. I have no problem taking campaign donations. I don't keep track of who exactly gives them to me. I don't do favors. And never once have I felt like in any of the time raising money that I owe somebody other than going and doing the very best job as a county commissioner that I can. My primary donors, the timber industry, again, I work on ONC timber issues, but also the healthcare industry, the doctors of Douglas County, and individual doctors, and veterans tend to help my campaign quite a bit, and I'm grateful for all those donors.
I've primarily been self-funding, and I do have a lot of signs out there, and they do cost a lot of money. I have got some private donations, but the majority, there is no corporate donations, and I am trying to run a campaign that is going to be pretty much spending every dime that I've put into it, and I plan on moving forward because I have a low budget, but I am someone that likes to follow a budget. And so I will maintain that budget and try to do a nice clean campaign. I think the others have kind of explained where that money came from on the Home Rule Charter. But we do want to remember that the Home Rule Charter was not all about term limits. And when that was defeated, it wasn't just term limits.
Well, there's a huge disparity between someone like me running in a campaign and an incumbent. And I don't personally hold anybody responsible. It's the way our system runs. And therein lies, I believe, the root cause of some of the problems we're having from the federal level all the way down to our local governances. So there's disparity there. That's all I can tell you. I mean, when I, am running a campaign for $1,500 and somebody else is running one for $150,000, how does that, how is that fair? I don't believe that it is.
I take no campaign contributions. That's why you don't see any signs from me out there. When Commissioner Kress says that they come running up to him because they, as soon as he files for his thing, he forgot to mention that he had one campaign contributor that contributed $100,000 to his campaign. 65% of his total campaign came from one person. What do you think they want? That's hijacking the election. $100,000, who out here can afford that? The commissioners have received $170,000 in campaign contributions since September 9th, when you could file. So you think about who is giving them all that money. Multnomah County has their own campaign finance limit that limits to $500. It was upheld by the Supreme Court in November of last year. Douglas County could do the same thing. If you look around, look at when the commissioners say that they don't allow the campaign contributions to influence their decisions, then how come all the big contributors are the ones being granted the money, the hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money, and how come all the key advisory boards, the park advisory board, the planning board, they're all, if you look at them, the majority of them are all campaign contributors. How many of you guys are on those advisory boards?
Next. Oh, you answered that already. Okay. All right, and we are getting close to being done, and I apologize. We always have this problem. We can't get to everybody's question in the time frame that we have allotted. But so I thank you very much for your patience. And at this point, we will move to the closing statements. Candidates have a minute to tell you about why you should cast their vote for them. Feel free to include in your statement, what you will do for the people, why should they vote for you. And we'll start with Marcus.
I was asked, why are you doing this? And I think that's an important question. I'm not doing this for me. I have nothing to gain. I want to do this for my daughter, her grandkids down the road, the future generations. I see I see the state of Oregon is going the wrong direction. Douglas County, we are sitting in a spot where we can maybe potentially turn this ship around. We can get the other counties to rally behind us. All we have to do is take that first step. Take the step in innovation. Bring new ideas that other counties are afraid to do. Uphold the citizens' rights to make their choices. I think Douglas County, we already do a good job. Let's continue to push that. This country, our founding fathers, the men that fought in World War II, they believed that this country could be something great. I believe Douglas County can be something great. Therefore, if you cast your vote for me and I get in, I will continue to push the innovation. I will stand up for your rights, and I will do what's best for the future generations. Thank you.
I think Douglas County is the greatest place on earth. I've said that a lot. I will tell you though, the last 4 years have been pretty tough. We started with a snowmageddon, and in the middle of that we had a pandemic, and then we had the Archie Creek fire, and it totally destroyed the community above Glide. But during that time, your Douglas County government continued to have the services that you come to expect, from sheriff patrols to roads and bridges being fixed. And that's kind of a testimony to some of the work that your Douglas County commissioners did. It's some of the work that I'm proud of. Even during all that stuff going on, we were able to stay open, in-person work, and provide the services that you folks complete. At the same time, also avert a budget crisis. So I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
My grandma Rosie died last June. She was 96 years old and she did not live to see me become commissioner. I did not wake up one day and decide to do this. It was after many good faith and legal attempts to work with this administration that pathologically infringes the constitutional rights of the people. Unlike Tim, I was born here in Oregon, in Douglas County at Mercy Hospital. My family has served in the military and I have provided direct care to the citizens of Douglas County with humility and reverence. My maternal grandmother, mother, aunts, grandfather all worked at Rosewood Forest Products in the 70s and 80s in Dillard. In the words of Samuel Adams, if the public are bound to yield obedience to laws which they cannot give their approbation, they are slaves to those who make such laws and enforce them. As such, I will prioritize constitutionally binding term limits, campaign finance reform, and voter integrity. Tim was elected at the same time in 2015 as Kate Brown. It's time to flush Freeman down.
So thank you. Grew up here in Douglas County. I've lived here over 50 years. This is my home. This will always be my home. And I appreciate the difficulty of decisions of voters, and I always like to make sure I thank them for doing their due diligence. I also want to take just a second and introduce a couple people that are in the room. Sheriff Hanlon's here with us, and Rick Wiesenberger, our district attorney's here, and Dan Loomis, our clerk, is here. I've gotten to know these gentlemen over the time they've served at the county, and I've been there, and they're great to work with. And I really appreciate the sheriff and the DA supporting my campaign and helping me continue to do the work at the county we do together. You're going to get your ballot in just a few days. You're going to get a choice between three people in my race, the three of us that are right here. You get to choose who you think is going to do the best job as your county commissioner for the next 4 years. I'm humbly asking you to choose me. Thank you.
Half-truth is no truth at all. And when people are spewing half-truths, you got to question their integrity. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why I'm running. I will listen to you, and I'll find solutions for your problems. I will work for all of the people of Douglas County, not special interests. I'm a native of Douglas County who appreciates the beauty and the quality of life in Douglas County. I understand the need for housing, medical, and respect for the elderly, the vets, and the children with problems, and the homeless. I will look at the possibilities for improvement, and I will follow through. I have a respect for the people, law and order, and the land, and I am hardworking, and I understand your problems, and I'm a problem solver, and I will follow through. I'm willing to take the lead in difficult situations and be able to be that person that you can come to. I will have an open door. There's no non-transparency here. Thank you.
I believe it's important to elect local officials who do not allow personal objectives to prevail or are not beholden to special interests, financial incentives, or other benefits. We need to protect and ensure government is of, by, and for the people as provided for in our Constitution. I will work with county stakeholders from timber industry, small businesses, agricultural sector, natural resource interests, environmental issues, and citizens to ensure that they are represented in county government decision-making. As well, I will work diligently and collect expert recommendations related to infrastructure, water resource management, public health, and the homeless. Voting for me will ensure Douglas County citizens have good access to be heard, get honest representation, and are served with integrity and hard work and respect. My motto for serving as a commissioner is in 1 Samuel 8:7, where the Lord said to Samuel, "Heed the voice of the people in all that they say to you." And that's exactly what is needed in our elected officials. Please look me up at bevashton.com, electbevashton.com. Get all the information and my contact. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you, League of Women's Voters.
Mike for DC. That's my Facebook page. You heard me talk about a bunch of stuff tonight. You can go to that page where I discuss it all in detail. Mike for DC. On that page, you're gonna find the promises I made to voters what I will do. One of those is to work without a salary. I will give back to Douglas County $90,000 a year, $94,000 a year for the opportunity to serve you as your Douglas County Commissioner. But what you're not gonna find on that page is my promise I give to you tonight to not have police reports filed against me for harassing and stalking people, and also for stealing the campaign signs of my opponents, like Commissioner Boyce has had filed against him in the last 2 weeks. And the reason why I can say that is because the people who filed those complaints with the police department are here tonight. I'm not gonna name them, but they're here today. So if that's the kind of commissioner you want, where he feels he needs to go out and stalk people and harass them, and if you go on my Facebook site, you can see where the people have gone before the Board of Commissioners meeting and complained to the commissioners about being stalked.
Okay, time.
So thank you all for coming tonight. I've not been contacted by the police for anything, but thank you, League of Women Voters, for having this. Being a county commissioner is a very difficult and very complex job. Even understanding what we do is very difficult and very complex. Before I decided to be a commissioner, I went and visited with former county commissioners Doug Robertson. I met with Susan Morgan. I met with former Commissioner Mike Winters. I met with the county CFO. I met with the sheriff. I met with a bunch of county staff people and dug into what this job really, really is. And I got elected, and I've done a great job for the last 7 years and had the pleasure of working with some very hardworking commissioners as well. There's only 3 people up here that even know what this job really is. A lot of us researched it before we signed up to go do it, and we've done a great job. And again, I humbly ask for your vote to re-elect me on May 17th. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I want to thank you all for coming and thank the candidates for participating. And I would like to thank my fellow league members for helping out tonight as timers and readers and card collectors, and thank you so much for getting your questions to us to offer to the candidates. This event has been recorded and it will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel. You'll find the link at our website, which is lwvuv.org. That stands for League of Women Voters of Umpqua Valley, the UV. Please note that when your ballot arrives, we hope you will cast a thoughtful and informed vote. New with this election, postmarks do count, but we encourage you to get your vote in as early as you can. Choosing to put your ballot in a drop box will save taxpayer money. There is a new drop box in the Weimar parking lot. This event was paid for by the League of Women Voters of Umpqua Valley. Donations to our league are tax deductible, and we welcome members of both genders. Let's see, community support for our annual garden tour is one thing that helps us bring events like this to the public. Tickets for this year's June 18th garden tour will go on sale May 16th. We'd love to see you there. So thanks again, everyone. Stay well, stay safe, and good night.
Hey, you can answer this. I have a Dropbox question. I understand the parking lot next to the library has been sold, and there's a Dropbox that's in that parking lot. Is that still a county Dropbox?
Mr. Loomis, what do you say?
I'll answer it afterwards.
Do you want to just tell us, is it still a Dropbox at the, across from the library?
It's still a legal drop off and it's private property.
Okay, but people can put their ballots there.
Yeah.